this ain't a race, but I still take first place. Yo, man, just to shove it in your face. Oh, Larray, the king of diss tracks. Okay.
Welcome back to People in Policy with Valina and Ari, where we discuss political events and new policies here in the United States and tell you how you're impacted by this recent race.
Oh, race, girl. Who's racing?
AI, I guess. AI, the US, China, other countries, we're all competing here for who has the best AI.
Yeah, we're gonna we're in an AI race, and there's just something so magical when Americans come to race. I mean, you've seen us in the Olympics, right? Like, right? But there is a saying that we are America, second to none, and we own the finish line. And that really just speaks to me like we are on top. Just remember that.
Yes,
Just keep that in mind.
mindset, guys. So, anyway, that's today's topic is President Trump's new artificial intelligence action plan. Let's get into it.
Perfect. So,
The first question is what is Donald Trump's AI plan?
well, on July 23rd, 2025, the White House released an article titled Winning the AI Race America's AI Action Plan. And that was in accordance with President Trump's January executive order on removing barriers to American leadership in AI. The plan identifies over 90 federal policy actions across three pillars. The first one is accelerating innovation. The second one is building American AI infrastructure. And the third one is leading in international diplomacy and security. And so the goal is that within those policies, right, there's goals that we're going to reach and sort of accomplish over the next coming months and years to hopefully win this AI race.
Yeah, so, starting with accelerating innovation on July 23rd, 2025, right, he signed those executive orders with one being titled Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government, which, according to whitehouse.org, calls for AI models to be truthful and nonpartisan, answering prompts accurately without ideological bias. So that's something that President Trump in his campaign and now in his presidency is trying to eliminate any sort of ideological bias in our technology, in our some of our media and some of our like our AI, especially because no one wants bias in AI, and so it's something that he's trying to eliminate, including things like DEI, which he calls the quote most pervasive and destructive of these ideologies. So we can see that certain there are definitely some, we're talking about it later, but some restrictions he's trying to take and some restrictions he's trying to put on these AI to make it safer, less error prone, less bias prone, things like that.
Yeah. So also within these pillars, right, is to build American AI infrastructure, right? I mean, just currently across the board, right? The power grid and like the amount of like infrastructure that we have to actually support high intelligence, high speed intelligence, or even just large amounts of electricity in general is very limited. So, of course, one of the goals that President Trump has outlined in order for us to achieve or in order for us to win this AI race is that we need to expand our power grid and we need to obviously innovate something that is going to match the pace that we are trying to create this at. And so part of this includes, bringing more Americans into the AI workforce. Maybe we're going to see new jobs being created solely for the purpose of these goals. Increasing cybersecurity, creating new designs for AI and applications, right? Because uh, literally the main part of this is like AI. So we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure to support it, the workforce behind it to support it, right? And so that is going to be a really crucial part in making sure that this all works out.
Yeah, and talking about like us leading in international diplomacy and security, obviously we've had all kinds of foreign relations and changes in that recently. And one of our changes is going to be because of like the framework for this action plan. It calls for the ending of, like I said, ending of specific federal and state AI regulations, and this like the beginning of us kind of engaging with other nations in AI and gaining support, whether that be just like all kinds of international support for the growth of our own AI. And part of it will be us exporting things. So part of the order, part of one of them, the export order, it calls for the creation of fully stocked AI export packages with AI chips, models, and applications. And it's on the way. We're just on the track to build us as like the image for AI, build the United States as like an AI image, and as a place that is having not only like increasing the usage of AI and widening it in our nation, but also in like across the world, in many nations. And that's going to really change the focus of AI to being something new.
Yeah. So I know that we said, or that you mentioned that there's some different perspectives and ideas on this AI action plan. So, what are the perspectives of those who are in favor of this action plan? You know, the ones who think that this is going to be really good for the US.
Yeah, so obviously President Trump believes that, well, obviously this is going to end a lot of the current bias that he at least points out in AI, and that's going to be a big part in making AI safer, making some changes in certain like political bias in AI. And the Trump administration is viewing this as a step forward for AI to become larger, efficient, better working for all Americans to use it in really whatever they want, and to build up the industry a lot more. So they believe that continuing restrictive rules on AI, as other governments have done, is only going to be a limitation. And for AI to, be like a seed that we keep watering, let it grow. Like the only thing that you can do is take any restrictions off, or at least that's their perspective, and just let it free roam.
Yeah, I mean, Trump said during a speech to industry luminaries at the Andrew M. Mellon Auditorium that, quote, we're going to make this industry absolutely the top because right now it's a beautiful baby that's born. We have to grow that baby and let that baby thrive. We can't stop it. We can't stop it with politics. We can't stop it with foolish rules and even stupid rules. So yeah, kind of like what Valina was saying, right? People who are in favor of this kind of believe, right, that the best way for us to achieve our goals as fast as possible and to win this race as fast as possible is to sort of strip away any sort of things that could potentially be holding AI back, any sort of limitations, um, because that's the fastest way we can invent new stuff, the fastest thing we can build this infrastructure, the security, our place in the world as some of the like the main influence of AI. So obviously there are people who think differently. So what are some perspectives of those who are not in favor of this AI action plan?
Yeah, so for those who aren't in favor, obviously there are a lot of different questions that are raised by this plan. Firstly, starting off, Graham Brookie from Atlantic Council's Vice President for Technology Programs and Strategy, that's her title, she raises a question over how effective this can be and if it is so, I guess, ambitious compared to the budgets that we have set here in the United States for different government programs. So, like the National Science Foundation, that in part supports AI a lot and works towards those changes and grows it. And whenever we stop funding those specific government programs for AI, it's like our goals are really far out and the money is really short. So it's kind of, that's definitely a question that's being raised, is will we have to increase our budget anymore, because that's a big change from the policy that we've seen earlier in this president's term.
Yeah, I mean, obviously some people are viewing this as a money grab for big tech corporations to take advantage of and exploit. Um Americans and everyday workers, right? And that this isn't really about, innovation, and it's just like about power, right? And so that's definitely what they're concerned about, is that if you strip away these limitations that are currently restricting AI, and some people think that AI already doesn't have enough restrictions, right? Some are expecting more restrictions towards AI. There's some concerns about like the ethics that could come out of this, right? Will this end up being ethical? Is this even good for everyday Americans? And that's kind of what people who don't like this action plan are thinking about, right? Um, so that's pretty much kind of the perspectives that we are seeing so far.
Yeah, and like, people in the industries for AI, like NVIDIA and Advanced Micro Devices, they viewed this, as a positive for their businesses because they can compete better in the market. They can grow, they can keep producing those chips, and they can do a good job at it when there are like little to no restrictions on it. And, according to Sarah Myers West, co executive director of the AI Now Institute, she says that the White House AI action plan was written by and for tech billionaires, end quote. So basically, we can see that it's like deferring, like those tech billionaires that she's referring to they're going to keep seeing their growth, and then so they see it as a positive, while other people are like, well, if it's only the businesses growing, how are the other Americans impacted by this? Because the businesses are just one thing, the other Americans are a lot. There are so many of them, right? This is a big nation. So there are going to be a lot of people affected by this, not only the businesses, not only the government. And it's really good to look at everyone's perspective here and how all of those Americans are going to be impacted. So,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So the next question is, what are some statistics on public use of
So according to Pew Research in 2022, and I know that is from 3 years ago, but I wanted to kind of see how maybe views on AI has developed over the course of, a few years, right? Because in 2022 we were under a different presidential administration, right? So maybe some views about AI were different then than they are now that we are under a new administration. So in according to a Pew Research report titled AI and Human Enhancement, Americans' openness is tempered by a range of concerns. The research found that 34% of Americans were more concerned than excited, 18% of Americans were more excited than concerned, and 45% of Americans were equally concerned and excited about the use of AI in daily life. Now, obviously, that statistic was only just covering the use of AI in daily life. So we're talking about things like Siri, or maybe when you Google things and, some sort of AI explanation pops up. That's kind of like what we're seeing, maybe the algorithms in your social media. So obviously, this is not as large scale as this plan is hoping, right? But what we were seeing is that more Americans were seeing both sides, right? They understood how this could be really beneficial for us, right? But they were also saying that there could be some potential drawbacks, and they were equally concerned about both. And more Americans, second to that, more Americans were concerned than excited, right? So maybe we're seeing a little bit of hesitancy to allow this into our daily lives because AI is a really new idea for most people. The internet is not really that old if you think about it, and so, like, a lot of these ideas are super new. And when things are new and like underdeveloped, right, it can be scary because we don't really understand them as much. And there's like a lot of confusion that's going on. And so I think that's kind of what we were seeing there in 2022, right? We weren't really sure kind of like what AI was or what it could have the potential to do. Also in 2022, under that same report, Republicans were more likely than Democrats to say that they are more concerned than excited. So 45% of Republicans were more concerned than excited, compared to 31% of Democrats who were more concerned than excited. So that's just kind of the difference between, political parties, right? It seems like during this time or in this report, Republicans were a little bit more skeptical of AI. Um, Moving on to age, those ages 65 and older, so 82% said that they would be very or somewhat concerned if AI programs could make important life decisions for people compared to those ages 18 to 29. 63% of people said that they would be very or somewhat concerned if AI programs could make important life decisions for people. Right? Older generation, 65 and older, not very familiar with um, internet, right? They watch the birth of the internet. So all of this stuff is like very new, and they also experience what life was like before the internet, and they're probably more prone to like thinking that it was better before they had the internet, or maybe it's like they're not as, trusting of the internet, versus younger people are maybe seeing more potential in what AI could be. So now into 2025, the public is far more likely to think that AI will harm them than benefit them, which is 43 to 24%. Yet one third still says they are unsure. So yet again, we're seeing people, maybe not sure where they stand. Maybe they can see both sides equally. They can see both benefits and positives. Um, Experts and the public aren't confident that the government will regulate AI effectively. 62% of US adults and 53% of the experts Pew Research surveyed said that they have not too much or no confidence. So, this is really important in kind of this AI action plan, right? We're seeing that most of the public and even some professionals aren't really trusting of the government with handling the regulations behind AI. And obviously, right, if you are some of those people, maybe you're feeling a little bit validated, like, yeah, I was right, because as we can see, we are going to start seeing some of these AI restrictions being pulled away. So maybe that is kind of like validating to you of like, yeah, you know what, I did think that there wasn't going to be an effective regulation, right? Um, 59% of the public and 55% of experts surveyed have not too much or no confidence in US companies to develop and use AI effectively. So, kind of just what we're seeing in general in 2025 is that large amounts of public and professionals don't really trust AI, or sorry, they don't trust businesses or the government to regulate AI effectively. And I can't imagine that those people are feeling too happy about what's happening now, right? Because they want these things to be regulated, I guess, whatever they believe is effectively, and they don't believe that the people who are going to be in charge of creating this large infrastructure um, to do that. So that's definitely, I know I just spit a bunch of numbers at you. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. But it's definitely interesting to see how perspectives of AI has changed over time, how we kind of went to being like maybe a little bit less skeptical to a little bit more skeptical about the use of AI, the integration of AI into society, and just kind of stuff like that. Yeah, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I mean, no matter who you are, everyone uses AI now. I feel like in some way everyone uses it. It's the first thing that comes up when you look up things on Google sometimes. It's your Siri on your phone. It's every time you scroll on a social media app. And so no matter what, AI is something that we use a lot. And some people use it for even bigger things, and maybe that might be hard to understand, but it's and it can be used for no matter what you perceive as like good or bad, but everyone's heard of like deep fakes and things like that. And so these things, I think misuse and proper use of AI are both going to continue. Probably, I don't want to use the word harmoniously, but I think they're both going to happen at the same time, and that's going to keep happening, especially when we lessen restrictions on it. And that's something that everyone is going to see. Every American is going to see the impacts in, I mean, political impacts, like bias based impacts, just like overall, like anyone could be targeted. You never know who. Like I know there was like that whole thing where people were hearing their kids like phone calling them saying they were like kidnapped or something. that could be AI too. Like some like AI can be used for really anything. And now we're going to see it as a lot bigger topic in the media and on the news, and just like more companies coming out making their chips and producing stuff. So a lot more usage of it is likely to happen on all sides, and we'll probably see things like more jobs in that industry and the rise in that industry, and then more use for the average American in different things. And that can be like in studying if you're a student. That could be if you're an influencer. There's probably going to be more on social media of that. So no matter who you are, you'll see the impacts of this plan. And yeah, just know everyone uses AI now. That's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
so I mean, yeah, like you said, I do, yeah, good things and bad things are going to happen, like with anything, really, right? So it's kind of just like, I guess, like how you view it and like what you think is like good or bad in terms of AI. But anyways, we hope you enjoyed this episode and hopefully this video helped you develop your own opinion on Trump's AI plan, and hopefully you were able to see some different perspectives and what some other people think. Maybe ideas that you would have never thought of or perspectives that you've never heard before. So yeah.
Yeah, either way, we really hope that this helped you understand the AI plan, learn about what it was, because maybe you haven't even heard about it. Maybe you don't know what it includes. So that's what we're here for. And we're going to keep making episodes. So stay tuned for those things. And I mean, let's make sure you're looking into and listening to us, because maybe we'll keep talking about this. Maybe this will be a topic of the future and we'll see what happens to AI. But thank you so much
Yeah.
for watching or listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.